Victory Studios in downtown Little Rock, this is Capitol View.
I'm Roby Brock. Welcome to Capitol View. Thank you for joining us. We're over a month away from the start of the biennial regular legislative session, but machinations are already in motion. Last week, Governor Sarah Sanders presented her little over $6.4 billion budget to lawmakers. I can't think of a better place to start talking about the budget than with Senator Jonathan Dismang, Republican of R-Searcy and co-chair of the Joint Budget Committee for another session.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, congratulations or condolences. I'm not sure.
Thanks, I think.
Sure which. $6.4 billion. This is a little bit larger growth in the budget than the previous biennium. So why are we growing the budget a little bit more?
Well, I think you have some demands that we anticipated with LEARNs that's built into the budget, and then also some needs with corrections that are built into this particular budget, in particular with the Medicaid or a medical services contract there. But, you know, I mean, across the board, I think it's a very thought out budget, thoughtful budget. All the increases are there for a purpose and one that's been rationalized through and actually worked with the legislative bodies. We were glad to see that and glad to be a part of the process before the actual rollout. That's not something that's normally done, and we appreciate the governor's office being open this round.
I think about 2 years ago, you guys just did the budget, didn't you? I mean, because she was new into
had a new administration,
there,
and so we were able to help.
$90 million for education freedom accounts. This is for both years of the biennium, right? There'll be an additional $90 million. That's a big price tag. You could cut taxes a lot with that if you weren't giving them away for school vouchers and everything. What's setting the tone for knowing that's the right budget amount there? Because you're in a little bit of unknown territory, particularly year 3. Right. And everything goes universal. You know,
I mean, I think when you look at private schools, that's pretty much a known factor. There's only so much space that will be available for new students to enter into a private school setting. I think the homeschooling aspect probably has a little bit more uncertainty with it, how many will want to take and utilize that. And also there's some discussions about tightening up how we utilize those funds, ensuring that they're being used for instructional materials in particular.
Not for horse riding lessons or
that's
things?
Fair, and I probably set that up for myself. Yeah. But yes, sir, I think that's right. I think it's just making sure that they're for the intended purpose and that we're maximizing those dollars so that kids are able to have the choices that they need.
There has been criticism that those education freedom accounts have been going to kids who are parents of kids who are already in private schools. Are you seeing the reform to education that you want from education freedom accounts? Do you think it is going to do what the original intent was, which is provide alternatives for people that need alternatives that are maybe not learning in the public school space? And I think the argument has been that this will strengthen public schools, although there's a lot of arguments that that's not going to happen.
Well, I think right now we've not gotten to that point to kind of prove that out and really that school choice and allowing that competition to drive a better outcome for students across the board, whether it be in private schools or public. But where you have seen an increase, and I think that it has proven itself to be beneficial, are those with disabilities that have a higher need. You see schools like Easter Seals that are expanding underneath the program, which is something I'm proud about. They're able to get services that they were never able to get before in those institutions, those schools, and so again, I think that creates competition. We'll see if the public schools want to kind of keep pace and create their own programs and learn from what's happening at schools like Easter Seals.
Yeah. All right, another budget item that I want to get to, $100 million set aside for the Medicaid program. Give me a little bit more description of why you think that much money needs to be set aside. What reforms might be coming? What are you trying to anticipate budget-wise on that?
I think we're still in discussion of what the overall change looks like, but the private option, which then became ultimately AR Homes, we'll have to submit for another waiver for that program, for that expanded population. I don't think there's specifics on what that looks like. I anticipate that we'll largely stay the same and make some adjustments that this administration would prefer. But again, that's to be seen.
Like a work program?
Maybe, which is something that we've tried in the past, but again, maybe there's, with the new administration on the federal level, an appetite to do some of those things that were not favorable before. Of course, courts will have a lot to say in all of these things. But as far as our Medicaid program here in the state, there's been a change to our FMAP rating. The state's doing better regionally, or as compared to other states, and that increases the amount the state has to contribute to be able to participate in the Medicaid program. This is really, it's unknown exactly what that amount.
We have to pay more?
That's right. We'll have to pay more for every dollar spent.
It's typically been a 70-30 split. I think at some point in time it was maybe as high as 70 75-25? I mean, you know that math better than me.
Yeah, expanded population is different, and it's set and is not subject to changes. But this population, yeah, it's 70-30, but even a percentage point or two makes a huge difference.
Right.
And so that's what we're looking at right now. I think, from what I understand, DHS is budgeted around that $100 million increase, but they also want to make sure that there's not some places they can find savings in the agency. And that's why you're seeing it on the outside of the proposed budget, but also as a placeholder for maybe future revenue.
Is the expansion population, is that still a 90-10
That's
federal
correct.
state split? Okay, I'd make sure I'm on that. Maternal health going to be another big area, I think, of policy debate in this legislative session. The price tag in terms of new money for that is put about $13 million, if I read the budget right on that. Is that enough money to make the difference for what you think needs to be done, or should we be looking at even more money for that?
I don't know on the particular dollar amount, but I do know that almost across the board, it's a bipartisan effort. This administration has made it a priority, the governor has, legislators have made it a priority, and so I'm confident when you have that many people wanting to move in the same direction, we're going to get to the right outcome for maternal health.
Education, the education formula, the higher education formula, are they on the table for discussion in this particular regular session for changes?
Yes, I think that's both.
What needs to change?
And I won't speak for the administration, but I think legislatively, before we do any increase in funding, we would like to have a better understanding of what they want for a long-term formula. I mean, in the past, that formula has generally been set by the higher ed institutions, and they generally regret how that's been set pretty quick thereafter. So I think having some more folks engaged in that conversation is going to be helpful. And again, I think it's, like we're doing what we can with education right now, it's going to be based on achievement. And beyond that, I'm not sure. That's just not quite in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, I have been following the debate over the need for more medical residency slots, and we have another med school with the Alice Walton School that's going to of medicine that's going to come on board in a little over a year. Is there more talk, because it's difficult at the federal level to get more funding for that?
Right.
Lots more hoops to jump through. Do you think there will be some more state funding for medical residency slots?
And it's already there. We utilize some of the medical marijuana tax that's been collected that's purely for increasing our residency program here in the state. It's been a slow process to roll out, even from the formation of the committee that was going to set that up, to maybe some issues that are in the legislation that we passed and adjustments that'll have to be made. But the money is there to increase that program and make sure that we have additional slots and hopefully ultimately getting some more care in our more rural areas.
Lastly, tax cuts. You're not going to do it in the regular session. I think that the MO has kind of been, let's get through our regular session, let's get to the end of the fiscal year, let's see what we're kind of looking at in terms of our budget picture, and then we'll go do tax cuts. 3.9% is the top personal income tax rate, 4.3% top corporate income tax rate. Do you can you look in your crystal ball and see anything that you think is predictable in terms of where you might go? Because the surplus isn't going to be as big. I know you don't spend from surplus, but the budget picture's not as rosy as it's been the last 3 to 5 years.
And I think that's one of the important things that the governor did with this budget and the set-asides. And so we're, essentially saying there's $190 million that is in excess revenue, from what the proposed budget is, that may need to be utilized in the future. So above that, if I remember correctly, there's about $100 million left in the forecast. And so I think that's probably your starting point for taxes.
That's not a big tax cut for $100 million, is it?
Well,
I know it sounds like a lot of money, but when
you're
you're looking at the income tax rate, that you're usually talking more than $100 million. So.
But we've been prudent every time we've done it. And so, like I said, I think that's your starting point. We'll see what forecast changes to if it does. I mean, all of us, I think, are hoping for a better, brighter economy in the future. And so hopefully we'll be able to continue to, to do more than the $100 million. If we're able to do the $100 million. Again, I don't want to bet on, what the outcome's going to be. I just know that we're being diligent, and we've proven before, if we have excess revenue, that we're willing to make those tax cuts retroactive. And so we've got some time.
I think when those Trump tariffs kick in, some of those farmers over in your Senate district, you might want to put a little bit more money in the set-aside right there. So, but we don't have time to go into that right now. He is Senator Jonathan Dismang. He is the Joint Budget Co-Chair. Thank you so much for being with us. Appreciate you as always, and look forward to covering you in the session. So, all right, we're back with more right after this, including some commentary on national politics with John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Stay tuned.